Why, hello there, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Crafty Boys. My name is Shane, of course, and who else have we got here today?
We've got Alan in Victoria.
With a working microphone this week.
Yes, amazing.
Indeed. And we've got Dave up in buttfuck, who knows where.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The pivot of the island, actually.
The pivot of the island. Nice.
So, Dave, now we were trying to find a beer this week. I sadly was a little bit late on the thing, but that was still a couple days ago. But the beer that I wanted to try is this. It is Alexander Keith's Cascade Hop, sorry. And because I like hoppy beer once in a while. And you guys had trouble finding this beer, which was a bit strange to me.
I think, trouble is putting it mildly. Neither of us could find this fucking thing. Well,
So-
okay, that's not
Okay.
quite true. That's not quite true. Okay, this, and Alan is probably going to say the same thing, although not quite as extensively. I figure that I visited 8 fucking stores in
And
2
where did you
different
visit
towns.
Oh,
was
you
gonna
went to
say,
the wrong
yeah.
places then, Dave. You're not supposed to go to fucking stores. You're supposed to go to just liquor stores. It's a different kind of place.
Oh man. See, okay.
Surprise!
It's been a long time for me, Alan. So
Yeah.
I
I
hope
can
you guys can
understand.
forgive me.
To
Okay,
buy
good.
beer, you
Good.
need to go to beer stores.
Okay, gotcha.
So anyway,
Anyways.
you attended these fucking stores. What happened when you were there?
Indeed.
You went to 8
I was-
between Comox and
And Willow
Camp
Point.
River?
Yes,
hell is
Willow
that?
Point to be exact.
Okay.
Because I thought, okay, like you, Shane, I thought, hey, it's a Keith's. How hard is it going to be
Exactly.
to find this beer? And Alan was probably thinking the same. Anyways, so I visited a couple places on the way home last night, and the best I could do was a frickin' 12 of the, what did they call it, the hop collection or some fucking thing like this. And so I said, okay, I don't particularly feel like blowing $30 for 12 bottles that I'm only going to have one of, because I know I'm not a big fan of the hoppy stuff. Anyway, so I thought, whatever, it's no big deal. I'm sure somebody around Courtney's got it. So I figure I probably spent an hour to an hour and a half today driving my ass around town to 6 different frickin' liquor stores to try and find this stupid beer. And you think it was a different story there? No! All that I could find was a stupid 12-pack in any store I went into, and some of them didn't have any of this stuff at all.
Well,
So I'm just like, whatever. I am not blowing $30 on this beer. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any. Well, I could have, but I thought I'll just go without this week, and we'll have some kind of at least a story out of the deal.
Alan.
So what
were-
did you end up getting there, Dave?
Yeah, that's
I got vanilla cream.
by who? By is that also a Keith's?
Henry Weinhard's.
Oh, a vanilla cream hop beer, maybe?
No,
No.
not even. It's soda.
No alcohol content at all?
Nada.
I will remind you the name of our show is The Crafty Boys. But to recover from this, Alan, what did you end up getting?
Well, I went around to a few places as well, and I couldn't even find the variety 12-pack. I would have bought it
Oh wow.
if I had been able to find that, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So it just seems to be sold out everywhere here in my city anyway. So I went out and got something a little bit different anyway. I went and got something from one of my favorite breweries, Parallel 49.
Nice.
I love this. I love the beers that they make, and I especially love the artwork that they put on their labels. This one here is called the Toques of Hazzard. Hold it up there.
Oh.
It's an IPA. It features two smashing-looking fellows on an orange tractor. I assume that they're cousins, and getting ready to go around and well, they're holding hockey sticks, and I guess they're gonna go jump over ravines and stuff with their tractor.
It's the General Lee tractor.
It's the General Lee
how could that
tractor.
not do what we wanted to do?
And instead of having the Confederate flag on the top, you'll notice that it's got a Canadian flag on the top,
Nice.
which I think is very Canadian. Anyway, Parallel 49 is located in Vancouver, BC, and they put together some really nice beers. This particular one is an IPA.
Nice.
There
So,
you go. Question for Alan, actually,
Yeah.
before we go any further. Did you happen to have a good gander at the Cascadia craft brew section?
Oh, yeah.
Is it big, like a full wall?
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay, because that actually was one of the places I went into as well today, and I noticed that even in Comox they had a good selection. So I think that's where I'm going from now on to get
Absolutely.
my beers.
Absolutely. That's my go-to place. They have the biggest selection of stuff from, well, BC, Alberta, Washington State, and Oregon anyway, and some stuff from outside of that. There's stuff that you can find at Cascadia you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I was blown away. It was unbelievable how much stuff they have on that wall. Lots of imports too, eh?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but they didn't have.
No.
No. Like I say, the best I could do was the 12-pack. Oh, I never finished my story.
Oh, okay.
Didn't? Oh, okay. Tell us more.
Here's the finisher. I actually chatted to a guy that knows his shit, at Cascadia, and he said, yeah, he figured what happened with particularly the Cascade hop was that it's not really hoppy, and you described this earlier, Shane. It's a pretty mild situation. And so the guy was saying that he figured what happened was, as usually happens when you try to make something that appeals to everybody, it appeals to nobody. And he figures that's why it's actually going out of production for the most part. You can buy, what is it? I think there's four or five beers in the box, and they've got their standard IPA in there, the green can. So they put that in the box, and they've got the Cascade, and they had, what was it, two other flavors as well.
Galaxy Hop.
Is that Keith or is that a Phillips?
That was a Keith's.
Okay.
Phillips does make a Galaxy. I think it was called Galaxy Circle IPA, but this one was called Galaxy Hop. And
okay, I'm not sure that was in their box, to be honest.
Oh no.
But anyways, no, I don't, because I don't remember that one. But there was two others. Unfortunately, I can't remember the names of them. That I did see on their own in little 6-packs. So they had those. They had this 12-box, but this frickin' Cascade Hop, couldn't find it for love or money, and so people were telling me basically all you're going to find it in is this mixer box.
Sorry to
and
interrupt.
it's probably out. What are you doing?
This is what they have in that box. They have the.
Oh, you found them. Okay, the Sapphire. Yes, so the Sapphire I found in its own 6, and that one is really common.
What's that one?
The Galaxy, the Saphir, the one, and then their ale, their IPA.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's a T. There's one that starts with a T, Shane. Oh, he's not listening, is he?
No.
Sorry, no, I'm back.
There's one that starts with a T. You have that one too?
There, No, there's only 4 in that box.
It's some kind of German name, which I saw in its own little 6-pack as well. So anyways,
Okay.
I was told basically it's just kind of gone out of production, and the best you'll do is find it in the mixer box now. So that's that.
So Shane,
But
what's the verdict?
I like it. I gotta say, I'm kind of happy. What about you? What about yours?
I really like this one. It's a white IPA. It
like
looks
that one
good.
as well.
I like how it's sort of keeps its foam there.
Keeps its head.
Yeah, keeps its head. Yeah.
What about your soda, Dave?
Oh, I love this shit. I've had it before.
I will point out, just to anyone who actually listens to this, I will point out that Dave is, when I first met him, I don't recall you never not drinking Dr. Pepper. I remember seeing your recycling closet. It was like 900 bottles of pepper.
I think that's a bit excessive, but it's true. I drank a lot of that
Well, it might have
shit
been a bit
back
excessive, but it's something that's really kind of important, right? So you got to be really excited about Anyway, I just realized I had the Save the Clock Tower poster on my desk.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I found a PDF of it and I printed it off. It's really high quality. Actually, what's really silly? I actually read the story that's on here, and
Nice.
they interview Doc Brown. Like, what does he say? He says, the chief custodial guy. It's the darndest thing. Graham isn't the only expert mystified by the circumstances. Local scientist Dr. Emmett Brown had been conducting a delicate experiment during the strike. He narrowly escaped. I was performing a trial of some new specialized weather sensing equipment of my own design, and the lightning struck at the precise moment to destroy it.
So is that like an actual reproduction of the prop they used in
Apparently,
the
yeah.
filming, or?
Apparently, it is, yeah. Or somebody has painstakingly put it together, but it's reasonably it's relatively high quality. I did manage to gather some, shall I say, extremely promising data regarding my work, but sadly it will take a long time before I will be able to undertake such an experiment again, said Dr. Emmett Brown from his home.
I'm surprised they put so much effort into a prop that had, 3 seconds of screen time?
Pretty much. They were going to launch new tolls. There was also 6 sections, 72 pages of the paper, and the weather was light atmospheric disturbance. Undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia. So there you go. I have no idea what Nova Scotia has to do with the Hill Valley. But anyway, well, now that we've been able to establish that Vancouver has the best selection of beer ever on the planet, and it takes relatively no trouble at all to get the beer that we want.
You just have to choose beer that's actually in production.
Well, this is actually quite interesting because I have a confession. Allison picked up the beer. I didn't pick it up.
You lazy fucker.
And she actually, she was coming home. She had the car. But she had a bit of trouble herself finding it. She had to ask the people at the BC liquor store where it was, and apparently it was, there weren't very many of them. They were tucked off in the back sort of thing. So the non-production part is probably the case. So we've established our beer for the week is actually 2 beers and a pop. Not the hallmark of our show so far, but so we have to make up for it in man talk. And I know that Alan was thinking about some conversational starters, shall we say? And what were they, sir?
Well, I think I said last week, one thing that maybe we should talk about is takeovers by large beer-making companies, beverage companies, taking over and buying out small craft breweries. What do we think about that?
I'm not happy about this development because in Vancouver we have all these craft breweries going up right now, which has actually brought a lot of attention to the city. I gather the rumor is they're trying to copy what Portland has been doing for so long, where they have, I think the last count I read in the paper was that Portland has 83 craft breweries, and Vancouver is now breaking.
Wow.
2015, Vancouver will break, I think, 30.
Oh, it's got to be more than that.
Well, no, like craft breweries. I'm not talking about Molson's. Doesn't count.
No, I realize that, but I mean, I'm talking craft breweries.
Well, this is the thing, right? Is that the craft breweries in Vancouver? I guess you could consider Granville Island at one point was a craft brewery, but they were bought something like 10 years ago by Molson Canadian or whoever Molson is as a parent company. So they got bought and they stopped producing beer on Granville Island itself, I gather, and started mass producing at the plant down on Burrard Street, which is quite a sizable building. There's a lot of that's a huge building.
So is that a Molson plant, dude?
The one on Burrard is the Molson plant, yeah, or whatever they call it. The interesting part about that is not about the Burrard Street location, but I actually went just on a whim on I think Friday or Saturday. Alice and I were at home and we decided it was I hadn't left the house in a couple of days, so Allison said, "Why don't we go up to the thing?" And I said, "Okay." So we were going to go to one location, but we happened to walk by a place called Steel Toad, and I thought, the Steel Toad is like 2 blocks from our house. Why have we never been here before? So we actually stopped in. Locke showed up, and he found out that his hot yoga buddy was actually the manager at the place, so we got free flights of beer that day. We had peated ale? Peated ale? Is it peated ale? I think, yeah, peated ale. So basically, ale, they make like a brown ale that they then somehow run it through peat, or somehow, I don't know what the process was, but it tasted like you were drinking dirt. So... And it was actually quite hard to get through because it was good, but it was good in that sort of weird kind of way where it's like, I won't have this all the time, but this is actually quite good. But you had to have some...
So it had like an earthy type of flavor.
Earthy as in if you took that earth, stuck it in your mouth and tried to drink regular ale through it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, it was decent. Then we also had what their what are they called? Their heifer beer, where they take a cow and they ferment a cow in the beer and then you drink it. The Hefeweizen, and then we also had. There were 2 others. I've forgotten the stout, some stout, and something else. I've forgotten the names. But have you seen Steel Toad anywhere? I don't know if I'm assuming they're bottling somewhere, but maybe not. But I would check them out if you can, because the peated ale, I gotta say, that was an experience. That was not just drinking a small, I mean, it was a little tiny thing, like little flight glasses, and you get like 5 or 4 different types of beer. Yep. Getting through that thing, it was like, sip, 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 I'll just put it down for a little while. I'll have something else. Sip, 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 have something else.
Yeah.
Sip, sip, sip. But you wanted to finish it. Like, you didn't want to just kind of go, oh, it's not for me. And then Locke was like, I'll have 2 pints, please. So, but that was pretty good. So I gotta say that it was kind of interesting experience in a lot of ways. I'm trying to find a breweries in Vancouver here, a list of them, which you'd think that the
I don't know how many there are here on the island, but I mean, we got to be pushing 25, 30. Here, I mean, there's a lot of microbreweries. As eyes.
Excuse me. Oh, here they are. I found a map. If you go to beermebc.com/BC-breweries, you will find a very handy little map, actually, that'll show you a listing of where all the locations are. Which is kind of interesting because in Vancouver proper, we have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 20, 21. So that's just in Vancouver itself. Now I'm assuming this list might not be the entire list, but there's actually a brewery near the airport called the Flying Beaver. Who knew? But Parallel 49, I think, is out in New West, I think. I don't actually know where Parallel 49 is. I had a beer advent calendar, and that was in it. Oh, where is it? Where?
It just says 1950 Triumph Street in Vancouver, BC.
Okay, so it must be okay. Well, it must be in Callister Brewing Company. What the? I've never heard of them. Storm. There's Storm. I know where Triumph is. Triumph is over in this direction. So yeah, there it is. Parallel 49. Yeah, 1950. So that's well, they're right across the street from Cole Harbor Brewing. I gotta say, I'm pretty excited about this development.
Who knew?
But
actually, what's interesting about developments that I noticed, I don't know if you've seen this, Alan, you might have even tried some of them, but the 4 Mile is doing at least
actually
some of the
we
road
had
beers.
some 4 Mile the other day at where was I?
So you can get it too.
I was downtown. Yeah, I was able to get at a pub. Yeah, they had they only had one, but it was good. I liked it. But Locke actually was talking a lot about 4 Mile because he used to work at the 4 Mile liquor store at where that not London Drugs, near Alan's house.
My
Admiral's
old house.
Walk.
Admiral's Walk.
Oh yeah, near Alan's old place. So yeah, they apparently they've done a lot of expansion in the last little while. So
I don't know if you remember the 4 Mile, Shane, but you remember you went downstairs, there was like a sports pub down there?
Yeah.
They've converted that into a brewery. And actually, I tried some of their stuff for the first time on the weekend. Some friends came over and they brought a couple of growlers with them. And one of them was a nut brown ale, which was very good.
Right.
And the other one was it was a beer that had, let me look it up here. It was a beer that had been stored in a bourbon cask.
Oh, I love those. Oh, I love them.
It wasn't something that you could take a whole bottle or like a couple of pints and down them. But it was very good. 4 Mile bourbon.
I've heard of that practice, but I haven't had a beer that's actually done that yet, so have to do that as one of our beers.
I agree. I think it's not a bad idea.
Here, I'm sending you the link.
Oh, excellent. Beeradvocate.com. Oh. Whoa!
You want to go to the rate beer one. The second
The
one.
Voodoo Donut Maple Bacon Ale.
I've been looking at that. I was looking at that one in the store, and I was kind of wondering if I should get it.
I don't know. That sounds awful. The beer is retired and no longer being brewed. Weird.
Well, it's available at my local Cascadia, probably because nobody wants to buy it.
What do I want to look for? Sorry, what am I looking
It's the second link I sent you.
for? Oh, okay. Rate my beer. Hey guys, have you guys ever used Tap It or Untapped?
No.
I've been thinking
have
about
not.
trying it out. But
Yeah, go for it.
I'm kind of curious if it would actually give better ratings for beer that you could actually look at while you're wanting to order something. Although I kind of like experimentation anyway. But back to the topic at hand. About this whole thing with small breweries getting eaten up by larger breweries. I'm not wild about it because I think that you can lose quality and such things. However, when I was down in Kentucky last summer, I went to a bunch of different. I went to 13 odd distilleries, I think, if my memory serves. Maybe not that many. But the interesting thing was I went to a distillery called, I want to say Haven, but it wasn't called Haven. Something similar to that. But when you went there, you actually saw all of the other labels that they made, which I guess over the last 100 years or so, these companies slowly came together and started brewing or distilling together, or they got bought up or whatever.
Yeah.
But this one particular distillery had, I think it was about 6 or 7 labels. So it was I thought that was kind of cool because even though they had these different labels, they actually gave you an idea or sort of like a list of what the recipes were, and the recipes hadn't changed for a very long time. Yeah. So that this distillery that existed from 1902 to 1940 was a distillery that made it this particular way, and we've maintained that. So it's they actually they had a lot of history behind it, because their particular distillery, there was the distillery, the actual distillery, but then there was the visitor center kind of idea that we went to, and they basically, it was like a small mini museum that had, this is what making bourbon was all about. This is kind of how it started. This is how it became popular. Then there was the Prohibition, and then it sort of went underground. And then after that, once Prohibition was over, they created opportunities for more distilleries and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of neat, actually. But I don't see that happening in the craft beer market. I mean, granted, there's a lot of like seasonal stuff that might only happen once. Like there's the seasonal stuff that you see that happens, somewhat irregular, like the Herminator, for example, out of Victoria. That's been going on forever. But I suppose that if there was a chance that it didn't actually work out for that one season, that it may not have returned. Yeah. So, I mean, there's that kind of thing that may or may not. I mean, the donut voodoo thing, something tells me they're never going to make that again.
No.
I mean, even the bottle is kind of a somebody was drinking their own product, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's make it pink. I just throw fire in his red there.
But I don't know. I guess just what I'm trying to say is that even though I don't like the idea of the craft breweries getting eaten up like that, maybe there might be some historical context that can be drawn from that. Say in 20 years, we'll actually see, beers being made the same way they were, when say a brewery starts up this year, kind of idea.
Yeah.
So but again, maybe some beers are meant to die, even if they aren't being made anymore. I mean, there's definitely, I'm sure there must be types of bourbon that aren't made anymore because they just plain old sucked. But again, you lose a lot of sort of distilled product in that whole process. And I don't know if the same can be said for the process of making beer. Like when bourbon is made and whiskey and things like that, when they're put in the barrels, they lose like more than a third, like something like 40% of the actual, what they dump in, only 40% comes out because it evaporates into the air. And they refer to that as the angel's share, which actually is kind of bad because you have these very large distilling buildings that have all these barrels in them that have very large signage, where you don't fart wrong in these buildings because they will explode and burn down, which actually makes sense because now that I've actually been to a distillery, I mean, I've seen photographs of distilleries in the past, but I didn't know really anything about them other than, hey, that's a place where barrels with booze in are in. Yeah. But these buildings are actually quite far apart. Like there's these large buildings, they're about, say, 4 or 5 stories tall, and they hold a lot of booze in them. And then the next building is not right next door. It's a good 100 yards away kind of thing, because I guess these things have a tendency to explode if people are stupid. So yeah, that's a good idea. But again, beer, bourbon, both have benefits and awesomeness, but the method of creating them is so different. I mean, maybe there's more danger to losing craft breweries, maybe. But again, apparently Vancouver wants to have like 100 breweries by 2020 or something crazy.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't really have a problem with it as long as these large companies don't mess with success. These small breweries are a success for a reason because they use quality ingredients, and they brew in smaller batches. Yes, we pay a premium for that at the consumer level, but I think we're paying for a greater product. And hopefully, like a large company like Anheuser-Busch doesn't come along and downgrade the quality of the ingredients that you find in some of these microbrewed beers. One thing I like about the microbrewed beers is that they, no preservatives, all the hops and everything are usually non-GMO. You're just getting a better quality product, and as long as larger companies don't try to water that down, figuratively speaking, then I think we'll be okay.
There's actually a brew pub that I went to in Regina, called Bushwhacker, and they're and apparently their brew pub is haunted. But the interesting thing is they actually have a seasonal that's not beer at all, which apparently people lined up for to get, and it's actually, now I'm trying to find it here. It was a what is it? Hey, Allison, was it a blackberry? The blackberry mead. It was blackberry. Okay. So they made a blackberry mead, and because it was such a small batch, they only allowed you to have a half a pint at a time, and you're only allowed to have 2 half pints while you were sitting in the restaurant.
Holy cow!
So,
Wow.
So something like that is kind of interesting. Where that kind of stuff you wouldn't want to. I mean, that would actually, to me, probably wouldn't happen if they got eaten up by a larger brewery in Saskatchewan. So. Or anywhere for that matter, if they got bought out by Joe Smith, Guinness runner, or whoever the hell runs Guinness, or whoever. Actually, who even runs Guinness? Does anybody know? I don't even know. I haven't a clue. I just like their product. Liquid bread is always good for you. But it's very interesting just how, because they did it. I think the first time was in 2013, and they had such a response for it. I gather it was going to be a one-off, and they decided to do it again last year. So they make this mead, and then they only start selling like partway through December, and they only sell it for a certain period of time, and then they use the rest for their brewery or for their pub. So I don't know. I would feel sad for something that unique to be eaten up and just to disappear into history without really much, not much of a footnote.
Right.
Granted, in this day and age, when you really think about it, when we have inventions like YouTube, because right now, in theory, we're recording this on YouTube. It is being shared from YouTube, and chances are, so let's just pretend that money's no object, and YouTube might outlive both of us, or all three of us. Sorry, I said both of us because I was looking at both of you guys, ignoring the fact that I'm talking. Like, both of us. Wait a minute, there's a third person.
Shane thinks he's immortal.
But I don't know. I find it very interesting, just that nothing seems to. When I look at buildings in Vancouver and Victoria, I see a lot of buildings that were made and built before my parents were born, before my grandparents were born. And these buildings, in theory, if they don't get wiped out in the next big earthquake, could last for a very long time. Without any, no one's going to knock them down. They're a heritage thing, and if heritage is strong, then it probably will still be around.
Actually, in Vancouver, they're getting bought up and bulldozed.
A lot of the ones that have been derelict for such a long time, like there was a theater that I wish they'd renovated, and they were going to for a while. It was an old vaudeville theater, sort of on the on Hastings, sort of near Main and Hastings. But it had been left for so long that a large hole had opened up in the roof, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it really just wrecked the whole thing. So, although they're doing the thing that happened in Victoria a number of years ago, forgot what the building is, but it's the one where they kept the facade and they built something new in the middle. So,
yeah.
But a lot of the buildings are knocking down in Vancouver are not heritage anyway, so they're of that age, but they haven't ever been designated as heritage buildings. Right. So yeah, there's a bunch of old buildings that are getting knocked down, which it's kind of unfortunate they are. But I don't know. I just find it's very interesting to just how we don't have any permanence anymore of anything, especially with digital stuff like we're doing right now, where this video doesn't really have a physical body. It doesn't. It's just a digital bunch of zeros and ones on a gazillion hard drives on Google's end. But as long as Google exists, I think this video would probably exist. But I don't know. I find it very interesting that we don't have any permanence anymore, and the sort of attachment that we have for even craft brews is not permanent. I mean, seasonals are one thing. Sometimes they come, sometimes they go. But, we've always had Lucky Beer. We've always had extra old stock. We've always had MGD or B or whatever the hell it is. I wouldn't drink it anyway. I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Like, is there on the flip side of that? I would hate to see small breweries get eaten up, but is that just par for the course? Is that the way that that business works? Which, comparing it to the distillery industry back in the States, I guess that's just the way things go. Distilleries fail, they get bought up. I guess we get used to this. Is that sort of how to think about it?
I think as long as there's always a market for a product, then that product can exist. But there has to be a market for it. As long as the market for craft beer stays strong, then manufacturers would be stupid not to provide it. Even big companies.
Has the craft market grown because there's a need for it or a want for it? Or is it... Sorry, that's a stupid question. Of course there's a need and a want. But has that always been the case? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, has that always been? Have craft breweries just slowly been introduced over time and we're just seeing a bit of a spike now? Is that kind of...
I think it's maybe a bit of a fad. But it's a fad that you experience in other markets right now, where there's this whole movement towards having all natural everything.
Okay. Yeah.
No mass-produced things. Buy locally, that kind of thing. And I think beer certainly applies. Is that a fad that can last forever? I don't know. I kind of doubt it.
What do you think, Dave?
Things change.
Now, actually, before you answer, dude, I'm going to point out that Dave only 5 years ago, maybe, started introducing beer into his system. Well, but when I first met Dave was like, beer, what the hell would I drink that for?
What?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, am I serious? I'm serious. Was it like 5 years? It seemed to me in my mind that it was 5 years or less that you actually said. I seem to remember we were sitting in my parents' kitchen, and you said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a beer too because I recently started drinking beer." I mean, I was floored. I was like wanting to. I'm like, "What? You, Dad? Give me the beer! Stop! No, don't anything. It doesn't matter."
No, it's really, really interesting actually thinking about it now, because when I was really little, I had an uncle from back in Ontario. He came out and visited us when I was, I don't know how old I was, 8 or 9 probably, something like that. And I won't say that he was an alcoholic, although he might have been.
But he was always drunk
don't
and laying
know.
in the ditch outside of my parents' house.
Well, I will
don't
say
know
this:
why. He may have
he
been an
liked his
alcoholic.
beers. He liked his beers, and he would give us the typical bullshit excuses. You know, his doctor told him he should drink it to increase his appetite and whatever.
What?
Beer
Yeah.
never increases my appetite. It kind of makes me full, and I want to go to sleep.
Hey, like I say, this was. I mean, I was too
You
little.
sure he was
kinda
drinking beer?
Caught into most of this stuff. Yeah, I think it was Canadian of some kind, if I remember right.
Well,
Anyways,
let me imitate your. There we go. I'm going to imitate your uncle now.
I didn't see any of that. I did not see any of
My
that.
doctor said I had to, I had to, well, drink this beer to increase my appetite, because that's how it works.
Hey, this.
I feel so hungry now.
And I think
Yeah,
there's got to
gross.
be a little bit of irony here because I now work at a recovery house for men. Anyways, so
How's the
I just
alcoholism problem there? Is it mild?
sorry, how's the problem?
No, I was just going to say the alcoholism there is probably pretty mild, I would imagine.
Oh, very. You know, I mean,
were
it's
saying.
just the odd beer, right?
But your uncle was more than a single beer kind of drinker.
Absolutely. Like he would buy a 2-4. I remember him getting a 2-4, and I don't know if that lasted him. I think they were here for about a week or something like that. But anyways, I've never forgotten that. I don't know why. It's one of those weird stories from when you're little, right? You get these weird things just stuck in your brain, and that's one of them. And that came up when you asked me the question. And the reason it came up was because I remember wanting to drink some of his beer. I thought it was the coolest thing, right? You're 8 years old. You don't know any better. And I thought my uncle was cool. So I wanted to drink some of the beer. And I don't honestly remember if I actually was allowed to drink any of it. I might have been able to have a little, like a few sips or something. And I thought it was great or something. I don't
recall
know.
my family, my uncles, and every time there was a family gathering, I do recall. I seem to remember that there was some sort of times where I was able to get a sip here or there. But again, they generally drank really bad beer anyway. So I don't know if I actually wanted to have any.
But you know, when we were kids, that's all there was bad beer.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love the stubby bottles. A friend of mine, Anthony, he has like this huge, humongous like shelving unit in his basement that has like all of these cans and bottles from all breweries all over the place. It's amazing. He's collected these things for ages, apparently. Actually, for some reason that made me think of a story about drinking beer from my dad. My dad actually at one point, years and years and years and years ago, I remember I was out on the front porch of my parents' house, and my parents had they're putting in planters or something. I don't know, they were doing something outside, and my dad had a little stubby bottle of something, and he put it down. I remember looking at it, and he went off and was doing whatever, and then he came back and he would take a swig of the beer, then he'd go back and do whatever he's doing, then come back. And I remember actually my dad putting into drinking, and then suddenly going "Rah!" And what had happened is like a bee or a wasp had gone into the beer bottle and he had just swigged it and stung him on his tongue. And that was the first time that I remember my dad going to the hospital because he's really allergic to bees.
Wow.
So yeah, that was he poofed up a little bit.
So
what a
that's
bizarre memory to think of. So that
Wow.
would suck. I've actually never done that. I hope never to do that because that would just be awful. But anyway, Alan,
man.
when was the first time you had beer, Alan?
The first time I had beer, actually, my dad used to wake me up in the middle of the night when I was about 5 years old, because my dad he drank quite a bit, like
Right.
Dave's uncle. Like he would get a case of 2-4 I don't know, every probably few days. And sometimes he would, he would stay up late till probably like 2 in the morning or whatever, watching TV, drinking, and he would get me up, midnight or whatever, and I had this little plastic Tupperware cup, and he would fill it up with beer and have me come and sit with him on the couch, and I was supposed to drink this stuff, and this stuff was absolutely gross to me at the time.
I remember beer being gross when I was that age too.
I'm totally sleepy, and but I've got this glass of beer, and I'm watching whatever my dad's watching. I don't even remember what he was watching, and he leans over to me every single time, and he's like, "Don't tell your mother I did this." And every single time I would tell my mother he did it, but he would keep doing it, and
well, some time with his son and everything. I'm sure you've done it with your kids, right? You wake them up early in the morning
5 o'clock to drink beer with me. No, I'm not doing that.
Well, I guess actually your oldest is a teenager now. What kind of wisdom are you going to give him about what kind of beer is good and what is bad beer?
Well, he's tried. I mean, I only drink, what I think is good stuff. I don't drink any of the mass-produced stuff, and he's tried it, and he says he doesn't like it. So
up straight to the heroin then for him.
Yeah.
That's what all the kids are doing. A little wacky tobacco, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Dave? Was that really the first time you ever drank beer? Was
Well, I don't remember if I actually had any. I think I did. I think I was allowed to have some sips, but no, I think the okay, I'm thinking of the first time that I had actual booze that I can remember, and I was pretty little, like 6 or 7, a little bit younger.
We're all damaged children.
This is actually a pretty heavy podcast. It's like, should we start crying
early in the morning?
Like
Dave's like, my uncle's getting me hammered. I know.
No, I wasn't. No, not even close. Fuck. No. It's just, and in my family, booze has never been a big deal.
Yeah.
Because we're and remember we kind of talked about this a little bit. You guys are like, oh, we're Canadians, right? We're full-on Canadians. And I said, well, I don't really think of myself that way.
I don't know when that happened.
Remember that, Alan?
I don't remember at all.
I mean, it wasn't it wasn't a big deal conversations, but you guys were saying, yeah, we're pretty much Canadian, hardcore Canadian. And I said, well, I don't really feel like that. And you guys were like, what? What are you talking about, bitch?
You're wrong.
I said, well,
Sorry,
I feel
but
more
you are.
European than anything else. And I guess
right,
alcohol is part of it, because in Europe, alcohol isn't a big frickin' deal, right? I mean, in England, families go to the pub. It's what they do. The kids don't necessarily get fed booze, but they're around it, right? And booze isn't a big deal. And in France, the kids drink wine at lunch and dinner, and yes, it's watered down like halfway or something, but they're still drinking it, right? So in Europe, they have a completely different attitude toward it than we do here. And that's the kind of attitude that my family had, right? It wasn't a big deal. So it was Christmas time, and my mom used a cider. You remember back in the day, it was just the, the Okanagan, I think was about all we could get when we were kids. Right. And so my mom had used some of this stuff for cooking or whatever, I don't remember, and she let me have half the bottle.
Nice.
And needless to say, I was a little bit squiffy after I had that, because I'm not a big guy now, and you can imagine that I wouldn't have been that large when I was 7 or 8 years old.
So basically, you were a small child. Is that what you're saying?
I was a fairly small child. I mean, I wasn't tiny or nothing, but I was little, right? 7 or 8 years old.
Alan's quietly snickering away. I was a small child.
I'm just waiting for the group hug.
So now that we've revealed all of our poor beer experiences as children and how our parents totally just
No, it wasn't a
us
big
beyond
deal at
everything.
all. I always think of it as kind of funny because here I am just feeling really, really kind of nice, actually.
Well, I'm trying to remember the first time I actually had like a full beer, like where I actually had a bottle of beer, and I don't think it was until, I think it was my 19th birthday.
Oh, lame wad.
I know. Well, I know. Well, you were there, dickhead. We were at what was that place? We were watching some band play.
Oh, Harpo's.
Was that Harpo's? Yeah. God. Oh man.
Harpo's.
And you fell asleep.
And I fell asleep at the table. I started drinking this beer. It was
one beer.
It was stupid because it was like Molson Canadian or something really awful. And
it was a live band playing, and you fell asleep after one beer.
I know, because I had this memory.
Finish it.
Oh, wow.
One beer.
That's awesome.
It proves a point about how bad Molson Canadian is for you. It was really stupid because I was drinking this beer, and I had this vague memory of like being woken up like this. Shay, don't fall asleep. You're gonna get us thrown out of here. And I think it was Alan and Todd were there, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that was my first time ever actually having like an actual beer. Like aside from little bits from my parents here and there, sips when I was a young kid, and maybe I don't know, maybe my dad gave me more as an older child, but I don't remember him ever doing that. But yeah,
that was your 19th birthday.
Was it? I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure, yeah. Or maybe 18th? No, when can we drink beer in BC? 19? So it must have been because we were able to buy. I mean, remember when we went to see the great film Navy SEALs? And you were 18 and Todd and I were only 17, so we were actually concerned for a moment. I wish we had been left out of that film. But Alan was actually going to have to vouch for us that he was the adult and that he was allowed to take these two minors to this stupid film. My God. Navy SEALs!
That's awesome.
By the way, speaking of Navy SEALs, referencing a film we all know and love, I just want to put some love out into the universe for Kevin Smith today because he lost his dog Mulder, who was 17, I think a golden retriever lab mix or something. But yes, he tweeted today about 6 or 7 hours ago that he had lost his dog. So I think I tweeted to him just saying, hey, love and strength your way, man. Because I got dogs, I know what it's all about. They eventually don't outlive us most of the time. So that's a shout out to Navy SEALs impacting my life in a great way. Oh my God. So not very manly so far this week.
Okay. Let's change gears then. Let's change gears.
I do recall that at some point last episode we did mention something about thinking about reminiscing about monster trucks. Is that right? Am I wrong? Did we just a non sequitur last week, or do you have a different topic? By all means, I'm open to anything.
All right. Okay. So, thinking from my my label here, what's your favorite TV car?
Well, every Friday night at 7 p.m. or was it 8 o'clock? No, I think it was 8 o'clock because I think Knight Rider played before. Or was it the other way around? Was Knight Rider?
I was gonna say, how are you gonna come up with another car?
Well, no, I'm trying to remember if
Friday nights it was Dukes of Hazzard at 8, Knight Rider.
It was 8. Okay, Night. Okay, that's what I was trying to remember what started at 8 because I remember.
It was Riptide on after that.
I loved Riptide. I loved it because it had the robot football head thing, and it had a
with the
nonsense
blinking lights.
Did you
with all the blinking lights on it that it served no purpose at all.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
You have never seen Riptide, Dave?
No, it's not ringing any bells. What was it? What was the premise?
The Riptide was a boat, and there were two brothers. One was a dark-haired dude who I can't remember, which of course I'm gonna have to Google this now. But they had a nerdy friend who had a robot that had a football for a head, or a football-shaped head, anyway.
Oh yeah.
It was a very light rip-off of Simon and Simon. And I'm trying to remember if it was on before Simon and Simon, or was it playing at the same time? I don't remember. Anyway, whatever.
Wow, that's hilarious. As you were describing it, I was thinking Simon and Simon before you even said it.
Well, Simon and Simon, I mean, it had
That's
the
hilarious.
Gerald McRaney character and the other guy who, of course, has disappeared into the oblivion, essentially. Yeah, here we go. Riptide lasted 3 seasons. Perry King and Joe Penny. Joe Penny was the guy, the dark-haired guy. That's the character, or the actor I was thinking of. But
My favorite part was the helicopter, the screaming Mimi.
yeah, it was weird. It was kind of like a mashup of Simon and Simon with a little bit of Magnum PI, with a little bit of what's that show? The screaming what's the one with the helicopter?
Airwolf.
Yeah, that's the one.
Airwolf,
So it
baby.
had sort of that
Oh,
sort of combo. It was I think it was trying to appeal to a whole bunch of people all at the same time. And it was actually quite good. I mean, I remember enjoying it. I loved the robot, of course, but I mean, this is what 83 to 86, so it kind of shows you sort of how old I was at the time. But of course, at the same time, roughly was oh holy shit! It just came out on DVD.
Let's rush right out and get it.
I'm going to the
Yeah,
theater shop,
YouTube.
But yeah, and but there was so back to favorite car. What a weird segue to think about Riptide
Yeah,
when you bring
totally.
up a fucking car. So my favorite is obviously Knight Rider. Not because the show was any good. Alan and I tried to stomach a couple of episodes a couple of Christmases back. Holy shit, it was awful. But I loved it as a child.
I think
There you
many of them were, and we just didn't realize it.
go.
'Cause I tried to watch some Dukes of Hazzard, and it was the same
man.
deal. I couldn't believe how terrible it was.
Oh, well, I can still watch Dukes of Hazzard because A, the generally is awesome, but two, and more importantly, it is actually very much a slapstick show where Knight Rider, I think, was trying to be serious, at least at the beginning. Or at least maybe that's just my impression of it as an adult, but I mean, I did actually, when it was aired, I did watch the very first episode of that reboot they tried to do a few years back,
Ugh.
and
Oh,
it was
yeah.
terrible. It was Actually, it wasn't terrible. It was boring. Nothing was happening. They were like, for most of the episode, they're trapped in like a farmhouse in the desert or something, and then somebody died that you could care less about, and then they're at the funeral, and then it's like, Michael Knight is standing there. Hi, I'm David Hasselhoff, or the other way around. Hi, I'm Knight Rider, and I'm running a secret agency to fuck with the world, or world domination, or whatever. Luckily, it didn't last very long, and we didn't have to find out. Because it made way for cooler shows like. Did anybody here watch Knight Rider 2000?
Is that the one where they put Kit inside like a 1955 Chevy or something?
Yeah, I guess Studebaker or something.
It's Studebaker. Okay.
Did you see that,
what?
Dave, at all?
No. It sounds fucking terrible.
Oh, it was awful. No doubting that, because there's a scene in that show where it came out around the time I think Star Trek 5 was coming out. Star Trek.
No, it was
6?
way after that.
Hang on. Googling Knight Rider 2000 because it was trying to be a. Oh my God! It came out in '91.
Really?
Yikes! Wow, that's way older than I thought. I was thinking like 95-ish or so, but no, there you go.
I thought it was like way later than that.
Yeah, so it was so It's such a stupid show. But anyway, so to fill you in, Dave, Knight Rider has, of course, been disbanded. The show ended in like 86 or 88 or whatever. And what happened was they dismantled Kit. So they dismantled the car, and Kit's computer brain and everything is sitting on a shelf somewhere. And so this is so stupid. So anyway, I can't believe I heard. See, here's the thing. I can't remember important shit. I can remember what Knight Rider 2000 was. Anyway, so so Michael Knight somehow, for whatever reason, has to find Kit. So he finds Kit, and Bonnie, or whatever the character's name is, shows up to try and reassemble Kit. So they put Kit into this like 57 Chevy or something. So they're driving around this old beat-up car with this talking computer in it, and magically it has a stun gun in it somewhere. So, so anyway, so the scene that I remember that left an impact on me was they're driving down this backwater town somewhere, trying to find somebody, whoever the villain was, I guess, and they think they see him. Of course, Kit is like, I think that's him, but I don't have all my sensors, I can't tell. But I have a stun weapon, can I stun him for you? And Michael Knight's like, yes, of course, yes, stun him, Kit. And so he stuns him, and it turns out to be James Doohan. And he like gets stunned, and he's like, ah! And then, of course, Michael Knight is going, oh my God, we just stunned Scotty. Scotty, wake up! And he's like, beam me aboard, Captain, or whatever the fuck it was. It was so stupid. And of course, now that I see what year it came out in, 91, so it would have been like Star Trek 6 around that time. Yeah. So that most likely was why it was there.
Ouch.
Didn't do anything to promote the film or anything, but it was awful. It was so bad. So yeah, so that kind of sucked.
Okay, so
and Devin
let's
dies.
change gears a little bit.
So
Change gears.
So Knight Rider Trans Am is my favorite car, followed by a very close second to the General Lee. To answer Alan's original question,
I'm going to go with that.
You're going to go with the General Lee?
No, I'm going with Kit as number one.
I think the only reason I like Kit slightly better than the General Lee was because it had turbo boost. Now, granted, the General Lee did incredible jumps and all kinds of stuff, and they wrecked many a car.
General Lee didn't need turbo boost.
That's true. That is true. Oh.
It's kind of perma-turbo, wasn't it? No, I like Kit because I remember him anyways as being fairly funny. I think I got plenty of chuckles out of Kit. So I think that's part of why I like him.
I will say that Kit had a lot of personality, but I think the General Lee had more personality, just in of itself. But the thing is, as much as I love the General Lee, and if I was going to buy like a classic car, a '69 Charger RT would be like the top of my list. But still, I mean, I gotta go back to a show that was really my favorite show when I was a little kid, and that was Emergency. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah. You and I have talked about Emergency before too.
So in Emergency, it followed the. It was actually made by the same guys who made like Adam 12, and like Adam 12, followed a police station. Emergency followed Station 51. Who were a bunch of firefighters, and it chronicled the start of the paramedic program in Los Angeles. And the paramedics drove in this thing called Squad 51, and it was it's just a Dodge truck with like a little utility thing on the back. Yeah, but I don't know why. I love that thing, and I still love it. I mean, just to watch it roll, I mean, it looks. And you know what? The shows I've been watching the shows on a TV station here, and I have some of the DVDs. I really feel like they've stood the test of time, aside from fashions and that kind of thing. But
That's
kinda
pretty
like-
impressive for a show from, what is it saying here?
It was
70s.
70s, like 70 to 75 or something like that, give or take. Something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
actually remember watching this myself back in the day.
Well, it actually 6 seasons, so yeah, so 72 to 77. The reason I have completely, I'm glad you brought up Emergency because I actually had forgotten about another couple of cool cars, which were in Chips. Well,
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
not cars, the motorcycles. We
Yes.
always remember the motorcycles because that was, and I mean, that
Yeah.
show, even though Worf is in it, still, I mean, kind of, it's still kind
even
of cool.
though,
Well, Worf does make it cooler, but I'm sorry, that poor actor. Although, granted, in recent years, I have seen him in some other stuff, and you know, he's fine. I don't think of him as Worf now, but when I see Chips with him in it, I think of Worf. I don't know why, but the cool thing is that the motorcycles in that, I remember having the action figure motorbikes. I also had the General Lee, and I had well, I always called it Enos's car, but it was actually Cooter, not Cooters. He's not a policeman. He has a tow truck. Oh
the
my
squad
God,
car.
who is the main?
Roscoe's.
Roscoe. Good Lord. I even follow him on Facebook, and I've talked to him online a couple times because he's a painter. Who knew?
Like a house painter, or
No, he paints watercolor stuff. You
yeah,
should check it
okay.
out.
Yeah. all right,
Anyway,
yeah.
gosh, totally bullshit.
Does
so
he go?
yeah, so all these other
"You,
cars
you."
are kind of cool, but then I actually think about around that age, the film George Lucas's first movie, or not first movie, but his muscle car one. What the hell was it called?
American Graffiti.
American Graffiti, thank you. Had all the muscle cars that sadly made a reappearance in that film that tried to be Indiana Jones worthy but failed miserably. So I kind of liked muscle cars because I had a bunch of those Hot Wheels. I don't know if they were branded from the film, but they were all muscle cars too, and I remember loving those. And I remember actually having these epic chases on the living room rug with the General Lee causing havoc and then being chased by the police, also being chased by who knows why, but Boss Hogg's limo, or Cadillac, whatever it was, with the horns in the front. He was always involved. He always rolled over though. I always seemed to want to kill him for some reason. And then it was of course the every other car, usually the muscle cars first. Because they always had these cool, pipes out the side. You couldn't actually get in the car normally. You had to avoid getting burned. But what other cool cars of that sort of era do you remember?
Well, I remember. I don't know if you guys remember the show Automan. I don't think it lasted very long.
Is that the one where all of his
Not at
cars
all.
were made of some sort of? He was able to transform the cars somehow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when he drove along, it's like he could take turns at complete right angles. He'd drive along and there was no turn radius or anything. It was just turn on a dime type of deal. I remember that. I thought that was kind of cool. If I could have a car that would do that, if we're going getting groceries and getting to work.
Well, Automan was
That'd
cool
be pretty
because
cool.
I always thought of Tron when I saw Automan.
I think the producers saw Tron before they made Automan.
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't last very long. I seem to remember he turned into a helicopter at some point, or somehow did something with a helicopter. But yeah, I do have a vague memory of that show. Much like, of course, that show was what? When was that?
83 or 84.
Was that around the same time as Starman came out?
Yeah.
Now, did Starman?
I'm pretty sure Automan came on after Dukes of Hazzard ended, because it was also a Friday night show.
Because Dukes of Hazzard actually started in '79. Because I remember when we were watching some of those earlier episodes on the DVDs you have a while back, I actually remember being shocked. It's like seeing the copyright or at the end credits, going, "What? 79? Really? It started in 79? My God!"
Yeah.
I had just started grade 1. I can't wait in like 40 years from now to be able to go, yes, back in 79, when I have like no teeth and shit. Or maybe I have like a robotic penis or something that'll keep me alive.
Yes, I'm fully functional.
There were, you know,
man.
the only, you know, it's really funny that of all the vehicles out of Star Trek, the only cool vehicle that I ever thought was actually cool was the runabouts.
Really?
And then the Delta Flyer in Voyager. I mean, the ships were cool, but as for like a personal vehicle to stick around with sort of in that realm of, you know, if I had a car in the future, what would it be? Oh, a runabout. Okay, cool. I can go warp 3. Excellent. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what the only vehicles of the Delta Flyer and the runabouts that I always thought were kind of neat. Because none of the ships, I mean, the ships are cool, but I would never think of that as taking it out on a Saturday night to cruise with chicks on the boulevard.
Imagine Captain Kirk.
What was
A galactic strip.
What was that stupid vehicle from?
You know, the Enterprise that goes along and it's on hydraulics. It goes.
Oh, that's a good one.
The Argo. Remember the Argo from Nemesis? They were like, I've always wanted to try the Argo. And then that sort of dune buggy launches out the back of the shuttlecraft, and they drive around like idiots. That's what Picard would be driving. I was exhilarated. Of course, you know, you'd have to have like the gun turret on the back with like an angry Klingon shooting at people.
Sure.
You know? We're gonna
He's
drag
not a
race.
merry
Who do you
man.
think you are you? Boom.
I would pay good
Drag
money
race
to
this.
see that.
You would pay
Oh.
money to see that? I'm sure somebody can animate it.
I would pay good money to see that because Patrick Stewart is a fucking awesome straight man.
That is very true.
I
And
saw
he's
him-
also a
I
very
saw him
awesome
do a
gay man
scene.
too.
With extras. I don't know if you guys have seen that little.
Yeah, well,
He's
he
from
was like talking
Extras,
about like, you know,
where
young
he
boys
was
bombs or
in-
something.
Oh yeah, and I just could not
That's what
believe
I was
it. It
reading. He's
was
a very good gay
mind
man.
blowing. He was
It was
so freaking straight. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yes, I would pay good money to see that because I think he would do an amazing job.
You've of course seen the Patrick Stewart Twitter account, right?
No, I don't do
no.
Twitter.
Oh my God, jeez, what am I? You guys learn nothing. If you all get on Twitter, the best photograph ever of Patrick Stewart is the one he uses for his Twitter account. So if you want to go to twitter.com/SirPatStew, you will see what I mean immediately. It's amazing.
All right.
And you'll just see how fun that guy is entirely.
Okay.
So back to cars.
Well, it wasn't just cars.
We're missing a favorite vehicle.
Well, there's the A-Team van.
Yeah, there we go. A-Team van.
Yep.
What's the dune buggy that I liked?
Oh, Wonderbug.
Wonderbug. I loved Wonderbug.
Okay, Okay, a little bit of fairness.
Wonderbug. I am going. You know, that's basically, you know.
Wonderbug wasn't like a mainstream. Well, it was mainstream, but it wasn't like a prime time show. It was a kids show made by Sid and Marty Krofft, and it was only 15 minutes long.
Is that the stipulation? We have to make sure it has to be like a primetime show.
Well, no, but I'm just saying is that if people out there, if anybody's listening to this, and I highly doubt they are at this point, after our little man love fest earlier, but
yeah, they've turned us off by now.
yeah, they've told us this is boring.
You guys suck.
But anyway,
We don't suck here.
but anyway, Sid and Marty Krofft made some like really great kids programs, like most popularly like HR Puffin stuff and Land of the Lost. But it also made some other like really great ones, and one of them was Wonderbug, about a like a rundown green Jeep type thing named Schlepp. and it was
Schlep.
and it always made noise like bleh, bleh, bleh.
Yeah.
Its little license plate would spin around and stuff like that, and it had like these kids that would drive around in it, and it would communicate with them. But when the kids were in trouble, Wonderbug Schlep would suddenly all these lightning bolts would come down, cartoon lightning bolts, and you would hear the trumpet, and it would suddenly turn into this like hot, brand new looking red, metallic red dune buggy thing.
Wasn't it also sparkly? Like it had glitter?
Yeah,
on
it was
Yeah.
metallic, and it could fly. No wings or anything, but it could just
The
levitate.
show gets better and better.
It could just levitate and fly anywhere it wanted to and get the kids out of danger. I often wondered, why doesn't Wonderbug just stay like that? Why does it convert back into the rundown, rusty piece of crap?
Well, it was the whole
when
Crenger
trouble-
battle cat thing, you know?
I guess, but I mean,
Well, it's a secret identity. He's like
it could-
Superman.
if it could turn it on at like a whim, why not just leave it on all the time and look like a new car? I mean, there's new cars all over the place, right? So, I mean, I get your analogy with Clark Kent and Superman thing, but it would just look like all the other new cars
That's
on
a
the
good
road
point.
already.
That is a very good point. Because, it's kind of like, why did Superman not stay Superman all the time?
Anyway, it's really good for a laugh. I'm sure there's episodes on YouTube, so look up Wonderbug, and you're probably sure to like piss your pants. It's
From fear that we wasted a lot of time watching that crap at that age. But, here comes Chongo.
that's a whole other show right there.
On that note, we've been burning about an hour now, so any final words from you two before we leave it off for the week?
Yeah, I highly recommend Parallel 49's Toques of Hazzard beer. Pick it up if it's available in your area.
I do recommend Toques of Hazzard as well. Dave, actually forget you because you didn't drink any beer this week anyway. Are you watching
jerk.
episodes of Wonderbug right now?
Nice. No, I'm
He's looking at porn.
looking up Sir Pets too.
What?
He's looking at the Twitter account. It's the image of Patrick
Oh.
Stewart in the ball pit, which is the
Yeah.
best thing ever.
It is a good.
Because I remember somebody referring to it online somewhere that no matter what happens in life, no matter how down you may feel, just remember that Patrick Stewart uses this picture for his Twitter account. And I do recommend, of course, the Alexander Keys.
If you can find it.
If you can find it. So if you
Yeah, get it now before it's all gone.
you stumble across a bottle somewhere in the desert of our post-apocalyptic future, the reason I like it is because it's a hoppy beer, but it is an ale, so it's very light in the hop realm, and I kind of like that balance once in a while, where you're tasting ale, but also not being, you're not.
If you were going to eat something with it, what would you recommend eating? Like a steak or fish or
Carrot cake. That is the first thing that I think of when I drink this beer. It's like, I could totally go for some carrot cake. I don't know why.
Can you totally tell me what the mouthfeel is like? And the head
mouthfeel?
retention?
Yes, here we go.
Squid.
So anyway, moving right along.
Oh man.
Everybody has a secret
It
talent.
does.
Uh,
Okay, that just. Oh my God. All right. Well, our show just went in a
chicka,
Bye
chicka,
bye,
wow, wow.
watchers. Or
Different
viewers or
direction.
whatever.
So much for our audience. So anyway, after that slight reveal, I don't know what else to say other than I'll see you guys next week. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.
See you
Bye,
next
everybody.
week if we can stomach it ourselves.